Every club.
Every day.
The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Manchester City podcast on the Global Sports Podcast Network, the only network giving you exclusive news and views on your Premier League team, the Premier League, women's and fantasy football, every club, every day. I'm Jools Jordan Probert, and in today's episode, we're going to be doing another Friday forecast, looking ahead at Manchester City's fifth round FA Cup tie against Plymouth in a trophy that Pep Guardiola's side absolutely needs to win. But before that, we're just going to touch upon City's 1-0 win over Spurs on Wednesday night and how important that win could be for the rest of the season. So a brief overview of the game. It really felt like a match of two halves. Manchester City were dominant in the first, scored early. Jeremy Doku, excellent throughout. Back-to-back starts for him where he's looked really effective and dangerous, getting the ball into Haaland, who took his chance in the 12th minute with what proved to be the decisive goal of the game. Doku created multiple chances throughout the game too, and Marmoush and Savinho both could have added to the scoreline in the first half, but at half-time the game stood at 1-0, and in the second half Spurs come out like a totally different beast. They controlled the ball better, pressed City more, and created a lot more danger and a lot more opportunities themselves, mainly through the direct and excellent delivery of Pedro Porro and Brennan Johnson too on the right-hand side. There was a goal ruled out in added time. Erling Haaland would have had a brace, but he was penalised for a handball, which absolutely was a terrible decision. It took 5 minutes in the game as well, and the VAR showed so many angles that all pretty much highlighted that Danso, in fact, handled the ball, not Haaland. It came off Haaland's chest before he finished with aplomb. But despite the VAR recommending that the goal should stand, the referee disagreed and waved play on either way. Spurs then nearly went and equalised in what would have been the 99th minute of the game in a match that only should have had 4 minutes of injury time. Paps saw missing his header completely unmarked with a dying touch of the match to deny Spurs a draw in a game that they possibly feel they could have got a draw from. But as it stands, City, with a relatively deserved and comfortable victory at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, hang on to fourth place in the Premier League and now can look ahead to the FA Cup. Just before we get on to the FA Cup, some stats, or one stat in particular. These two sides have met before this game 173 times, and bizarrely the head-to-head record is exactly equal in that time, with both sides winning 68 and of course losing 68 too, with 37 draws. So that match yesterday has taken City outright winners over the head-to-head record between these two historic English clubs. Also, it was an important victory, as City have generally struggled at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Last season's massive victory there, of course, everyone remembers the Sun chance that Ortega saved, which ultimately was one of the most defining moments at the end of the season, as City claimed their fourth consecutive Premier League title, an unprecedented total in the English game. But last year's 2-0 win, with Haaland getting both goals there as well, was the first time in the league that City had won or even scored at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So to go 2 years back-to-back and Haaland again scoring and proving the difference is a good sign, at least, for things to come, especially since City have lost twice to Spurs already this season, once in the Carabao Cup, which was the beginning of the terrible run of form for Manchester City. And of course, the reverse fixture at the Etihad, where Spurs ran away with 4-0 winners that day. So a lot more positivity inbound after this performance. As I said, City are now fourth, gone immediately back up to fourth. Only 1 point away from Nottingham Forest in third, who, despite holding Arsenal out to a 0-0 draw yesterday too, can't quite get the wins going at the moment. The form has dropped off, and all the teams below them have started to catch up. Nottingham Forest are in third with 48 points. Manchester City just one below, and then Chelsea one below City. Newcastle in sixth on 44. Brighton and Bournemouth. Bournemouth in 7th on 43, Brighton in 8th on 43, and even then, Fulham 9th on 42 points, and Villa 10th with 42 points. So there's only 6 points separating third place Forest all the way down to 10th placed Aston Villa. So the end of the season in those in the pursuit for those European places, and particularly the Champions League places, as 5th position should be enough with the UEFA coefficients for the Premier League. Yeah, it's going to be quite the race all the way till the end of the season. We're going to take a short break, and then when we come back, we're going to get stuck into the Plymouth match.
Your body is unique. And Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right level to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you.
Hello, and welcome back to the Daily Manchester City podcast. So we've touched upon that very solid win for City at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Wednesday evening. But next up is the FA Cup 5th round. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, it's of utmost importance that City get this trophy. To come away trophyless at the end of the season would feel incredibly disappointing. But on Plymouth specifically, they themselves have had a great upturn in form over the past month and a half. New manager Miron Muslic was appointed on the 10th of January, and they won their first game after his arrival, after going winless in 11 prior to that. So an instant impact. And in the 11 games since his arrival, Plymouth have won 4 and drawn 4, losing 3, 2 of which were to teams in the Championship playoffs in Blackburn and Burnley, so no shame there. But to be more specific, Plymouth have beaten Brentford, West Brom, Millwall, and of course the game that got them to this amazing tie at the Etihad. An absolutely glorious victory over Premier League champions-elect Liverpool, a result which I'm sure in hindsight a lot of City fans are thankful for. So as I mentioned, Plymouth's route to get here was Brentford, a 1-0 win away, with Morgan Whittaker coming off the bench to score an absolute screamer before his loan move to Middlesbrough. And that 1-0 win, courtesy of a Ryan Hardy penalty in the second half, and they closed the game out to get the job done and themselves into the last 16 of the FA Cup. The reward, a trip to the Etihad. And for Manchester City, it really is FA Cup or bust this season. Finishing in the Champions League places is a minimum requirement, of course, and as I mentioned earlier, the top 5 should be good enough to do that. But this competition is obviously the last chance for silverware for Pep Guardiola and his side. Simply can't be coming away empty-handed, regardless of the injuries, with the wage and transfer expenditure in the team. And there's still elite quality littered throughout the squad. A team containing Diaz, Gvardiol, Foden, Marmoush, Haaland, De Bruyne, etc. should be competing at the forefront of every competition, as they have done nearly entirely throughout Pep's illustrious tenure. There are, of course, plenty of variables to consider this season. The aforementioned injuries, players aging out and dropping in form, the legal cases constantly hanging overhead, and the potential for Pep to leave. Thankfully, he signed a new deal, as the big man did too. But football, as in any sport, is cyclical, and it seems the majestic dynasty created over the past 4 years, and perhaps longer, is coming to an abrupt end. So to finish on a positive note, with those factors accounted for, a top 4/5 finish and Champions League qualification, and another FA Cup to add to the mantelpiece, from this position in what's been a very difficult season would represent a palatable return. Just back hungrier than ever next season. The kickoff for the Plymouth game will be at 5:45 on Saturday, 1st of March. Hopefully City get the job done, roll on to the FA Cup quarterfinals with Liverpool, of course, out at the hands of Plymouth, Arsenal out too, Spurs out too. This represents Spurs aren't out, sorry. But this still represents a fantastic opportunity to get another piece of silverware. And I think most of us expect City to get that job done. So thanks for listening. I've been Jools Jordan Provet. Please like and share and give us 5 stars. That would make the world of difference as we're starting this journey with the company. So stay tuned for all our coverage coming up. We'll, of course, cover City's performance in the FA Cup against Plymouth and all the other Premier League games coming in what should be a better end to the season. We have been the Daily Manchester City podcast on the Global Sports Podcast Network. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.